Okay, so now we're back with the sketches. Like, so since last we left off with the 3D models, and now I just spent half an hour on each of these, so an hour in total, to flesh out each of these. So let's just go through some of the sketches then. Mm-hmm. What can we, like, this gives a lot of information, this line pass. So yeah, the process is normally like jamming out, figuring out stuff, taking notes in Photoshop, then starting to make this 3D model, and then after that to do a rough pass on top. So I can just show you guys, like, it looks like this. This is the screenshot from Blender, and it gives a really good foundation. It's super easy with the perspective, it's already there.
Yeah, 3D really makes it easy to block out, like
exactly
the basic functions and the walls and the floor and the lights.
Yeah,
and then you can add some lines on top of that.
Yeah, so it's basically like sort of to use the ghosting of this 3D behind as an inspiration, as a source. But as you can see, I freehanded a lot of the stuff on top. So use Photoshop for what is best for, like these small greebles and stuff like that. They would take a longer time in 3D. But inside Photoshop, it's easy to pop these in just to start populating the scene. So you can see that the scene is quite bare bone as it is here. And it's just a matter of starting to populate the scene inside Photoshop. So yeah, lines can definitely do something that the 3D can't, and you get a lot of mileage quickly. When using lines, you can really easily see. But I mean, of course, know what kind of like end result. If you show this to an art director, they can probably see what kind of direction this is going, and give you feedback based on a loose sketch like this. So yeah, half an hour is like well spent painting over this stuff.
Yeah, if you just need to get some quick feedback on the direction you're going, like this is fine to get some feedback on, but of course this cannot be a finished result.
Yeah, and this one is the Diablo inspired. And as you can see, like for example in line art, I just indicated there's some cobblestones here, because that's way easier to indicate in line work than trying to start to make any kind of texture work inside 3D, because maybe like, oh no, it all has to be grass, or it has to be mud or something, because you just wipe it clean and just make mud trails if that's the thing. Also, for example, the half-timbered house, and that was the word we were looking for before. Now we know it's called half-timbered. Way easier to just draw. I mean, you can make it in 3D and it's fairly easy, but it's so much faster to just draw it inside Photoshop. So
and then just add a couple of lines on the roof, so you know that it's a shingled roof as well. So you can just add a lot of just directional details, so you just, like the brain will fill in the rest, because then you know it's supposed to be that.
And also, like, just a design note on that one. Let me just see if I can find it here. For example, if we look at the line here, it has this very abrupt flow. It has this very toony, shingled feel to it. So that's super easy to just do in line work, just to indicate that that's how it is. Like inside 3D, it's so much more difficult to make this kind of like customization to a model. Like 3D is good at what it is good at, and it's doing very perfect straight lines. But I mean, this is like not interesting at all, and it doesn't give any kind of feeling of anything handmade. So,
but it makes it easy to block out. So
exactly. Like
details.
Just have the line that you can follow, and you get some lighting information, you get some perspective information, you get like, I think the most important thing is that you get a sense of the space, and you get a sense of the scale, and you get a sense of the area itself. Like once you're inside here, you can so easy figure out, is this working? If I walk around, I know it's from a third person perspective, but does this area actually make sense in a physical a physical space kind of sense? So
all the scaling and lighting and everything.
Mm-hmm. You get it all for free. Like I don't need to figure out, this little like chicken house behind here is the right scale, because it's 3D and I know that it's a good size.
Yeah, and then you can just also add the weapons. Like in 3D, you just made like here's gonna be some blankets with some weapons, and you know that, and then you can just add some few scribbles of weapons in the line art instead of having to make fully 3D weapons.
That is definitely really scribbled weapons.
Yeah, but you get the indication that this is weapons, and now you easily can see that it's a smith, because you can see there's a furnace and there's an anvil and there's some weapons
and also like inside line art, I have taken liberties because I could see that there were certain things that in 3D, like this is all perfectly aligned, like this is all not put there by somebody. So I took, for example, the anvil here, and I just gave it a little bit of a rotation, just so that it more gives this like half circle, like a horseshoe kind of feel. Because and the same with this little chair. I mean, nobody would put it perpendicular to the wall, so just give it a little bit of rotation. Everything ties into that. This is some man-made environment. If everything becomes too like straight, it looks very unnatural. So, and a lot of details can be added here. I put a little what is it called, blowbell, because I mean he needs to fire up the heat in here. So like small props, coal down here, a sword sticking into the water, buckets for getting water, and all kind of stuff. So these are really perfect to add in line. The next thing we would do normally after this, we would give the client something to choose from. So I can just show you in here. I made this little. So normally we would make like around, I don't know, a handful of these location designs.
Depending on how big the project is.
Yes, of
what
course.
The different settings are.
Yeah. Like everything is scalable. Like if nobody, if they don't know anything, like what is it supposed to be, they could give a lot of different options. If they say it needs to be an alley, okay, we can do some iterations or some mods to this one and just see what will fly. But normally we would like pass a couple of these sketches with some 3D underneath, just so the client has something to pick from. Because maybe there's like should be a big road on top of here where people are walking, or maybe it needs to be more compressed, or maybe it needs to be more open.
Yeah, and probably the client also knows some things that maybe they didn't share with you, but now when they see the scene, then suddenly they realize, it actually can't be like that because of reasons that we didn't share before.
That actually happens quite a lot.
Yeah, and it's great to have to just have spent 30 minutes on doing some line art instead of having spent a week on doing something finished. And it's really good to get the feedback early on, so you don't waste anyone's time.
Just think about like how you're spending the client's time. I mean, if you spend like a week, then that week you don't get it back, and you have to bill for that. So it's really good to just keep it really organic and fast in the beginning.
Exactly, and it's so important to explore these different possibilities. Because you know like what you can do. For example, add different weapons and add a pool and add a gutter for the asset to run in and everything. But you also learn what you can't do and what not to do, and that's like even more important sometimes.
Yes, so the next step for us, like we would normally do this, like maybe 6 of these, and then we'll get some sort of client's approval on one of the things. And then we would start to really deep dive, because right now, I can just draw some red lines here. Like, this was the Dr. Freeze bad call out for the Batman with Arnie, but I mean, this is not really designed yet. I mean, you can design something out of it, but it's not really there yet. But like, how is it presented in here? I had this idea of a rotation, like a rotating, just basically stolen directly from Borderlands, just put down so it rotates. So this is not designed fully yet. And what is this thing, by the way? Is it an air conditioning unit or something? But it has guns and stuff. So nothing's really settled yet. So look at this as the early stages of a design where there are some flimsy, wispy ideas that has not been defined yet. We would go in and then further refine these ideas, because right now we have the major forms ready. So that gives us like sort of the framework to work within. So now we know it has to be within this.
And again, it really depends on the size of the production. Because if this would be Borderlands 4 or something, then they would have a lot of design guides, and like probably one artist would not design each of these types of chests and environment, alleyways and NPCs and everything. But for a small production, they might. So for this, for example, if it was Borderlands, then you'd get all these prop designs in, so you could just fill in the blanks, and it would be fine to just block it out and say, hey, here should be chest type B7, or here should be this other chest type, and these are the guns that should be laid out.
This has already been designed.
Like we wouldn't need to design every last piece of it, but if it's a smaller production, then you might need to design every last piece of it. So it really, depends on the size of the production as well.
Yeah, that's true. Yep. So the further refining of and I like to keep it as an organic process between 3D and 2D, because like this prop, start to refine it a little bit in Blender with box cutter and cut it out, and then take it back into line art and try to figure out, is it a good design? Is it functional actually? Does the lid still open the way it's supposed to? And blah blah. It's like all these, like, go back and forth, like make it functional in 3D, take it back, design it in 2D, take it back in 3D, and make it functional again. So, but that means that we will like end up at the end with a really fleshed out 3D scenes that then we can like take a lot of information out of. So the end product for this little tutorial, I think we'll just do like this, and then just draw here. So the end result of this small tutorial is that we would like to show you a callout sheet. So like the whole environment laid out, and it should be a little bit more visible than this. Probably this building has been ghosted out, so that we can really see the shop and the functionality of the shop and the functionality of the area, but mostly focusing on the shop. And then we will do some sort of shot from the alley as a beautifully rendered mood shot, just to set the direction and the tone of the whole place. Because I mean, right now, based on a call out, you cannot say what is the atmosphere, what is the feel, is it dangerous, is it friendly, is it goofy, is it whatever it is.
Yeah, and the mood shot will often hide a lot of details that the modelers would need to make the detailed environment for the 3D game.
Yeah.
So often you need to do both.
Yes, that's for sure. Yeah, like a lot of mood shots is like, oh, there's really dark here and there's some light here. So if you give this to a modeler, the modeler would say, oh yeah, I know what's in 10% of your image, but I have no idea what's going on up here. But as a player, you don't need to see that in the final game, and that's the mood of it. So you need to combine like both this functionality over here, so function and mood. So these like usually go hand in hand. I would say that it's really good to combine these two, so like functionality of the area and the feeling of the area. But yeah, this process is gonna take a lot longer, and it's not that super convenient to film. So I think we'll just skip directly to the finished result. But I will go in and break down the process that I took and all the steps that I took. So you're not being cheated from the process. It's just that it's gonna take way longer, and it's gonna be super complicated to record. So I guess we'll just see you in a short while with the final result.
Sounds good.
Okay, see you. Okay, so we are now back again with the final image. So it's like one of these cooking shows where you just skip directly to the final result. So yeah, here's the final result. Based on everything that we talked about previously in the like half an hour we talked, where the discussion went from all the way from Diablo and Borderlands difference on the game, also the structure and functionality, all the way to this finished layout. So this should incorporate like all the thoughts that we have done
Yeah, you may be able to recognize some things from the sketch earlier, but now this has been fleshed out and it's several iterations later.
And there's also several things that have changed, and I'll try to like point out what we like some of the most important things. But I guess we could just go like maybe we should just start with some 3D just to show.
Yeah,
like,
sure.
So this was the idea in the beginning. So this was what we based the sketch on, as I remember.
Yeah, that's Diablo, the Diablo sketch
exactly.
over there.
And so we talked, sketched, and then made the 3D models on the Diablo and the Borderlands style. And at the end we chose to go with the Borderlands style, and it was this kind of layout, and then that turned into this little bit more fleshed out sketch. But from there it was still a long way, and there was some things that really needed to be changed. So
some things that didn't work and some things that worked out well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, basically the whole concept of this back alley, it still transitioned all the way into the final image. It is this confined space, is a little bit hidden. But
one of the things that hits me the most is that like the angle for once has been changed a lot. This one is the other one's way more top down, while this one is a lot more first person.
Yeah. So like for sure the I think what we the notes we made at the end, it was like there was a function shot and a mood shot, and we went mostly with a mood shot because then we also supplied with this one a call out sheet to sort of say where the location is. And as you saw, I broke it even further down to take the main prop and then just made a call out sheet for that by itself. So what we did here is that we sort of have this whole layout. Like everything is of course important because it says something about the environment and about the city and the mood of it. But what is most important is of course what's going on.
It's the shop itself,
Yeah, what's going on in here. And the most important prop here is this prop here. And you could go in and break it even further down in this call out sheet, like how does it open, for example, because this contains several steps, like the lid goes up, you pop up the fish, this fake fish lid, and then this thing pops out.
Yeah, there's kind of been a story developed here where this is this is a weapons vendor in Borderlands, in the Borderlands universe, that sells guns. As you can see, the shop here has some Borderlands elements, but it's been sold illegally. So he's had this cover where he sells fresh fish, but he has this lid he pops off. So the story has kind of been developed alongside the sketch.
Yeah, so we chose to go with this ginormous sign up here says Victor's Fresh Fish, and we have all the fish stuff here. And he's been clever enough to that in case somebody comes along, he can pull a lever somewhere. I haven't really described that. Oops. But this sheet of plastic falls down and it sort of covered it up, so it's super, super hidden. But at the same time, of course, as a player, you really need to be able to find it. So, I mean, it's
in the game, and it doesn't need to be hidden, but it needs to be implicitly hidden. Yeah, that is hidden from the authorities. So yeah.
So I think also some of the. Let me just bring this up again. So, for example, some of the biggest changes, if we can should maybe break down some of the things that we got wiser on. The biggest thing that didn't work was this up here. I had envisioned that you could see the city in the background here with houses and light and everything, just to get an idea of the feel of the city. But then we tried it in here with the city up here, and it really, really didn't work, because the first thing that I did was go right there.
Yeah, and also that wasn't the focus of the scene.
Exactly.
Like the focus is this weapons vendor in this game. So
yeah,
that needs
the
to be
focus is here.
Yeah.
Don't look up here. So there was a little bit of a tough call, because I really liked the idea that you're supposed to see the city up here. It's gonna be awesome, because
you can tell a lot of information from having this shot as well.
Like window into the world, like you have the like the planets up here, and all the Borderlands stuff up here. But it took away the focus, so we had to be really like just to the point and then cut that out, because that didn't serve the purpose of this image to point here. So I had to cut that one. In the beginning we didn't have this sheet of plastic, so it didn't have this hidden feeling, and I think back then we didn't have that it was hidden that much. We didn't have this
it's just a box of guns, right? So the whole
it still says Dr. Freeze on it.
Yeah, still a freezer.
Mr. Freeze. But it was not. It didn't have the story element in it. So I think let's just go psychology. So I think this piece here was really important to sort of tell the story that is like it's a hidden weapon shop and these things pop up, because that is not present in the first sketch. So it's something that comes way later.
Also, just to make the hero prop more interesting, that it's just not a box of guns. It actually has some functionality.
Yeah.
That it's actually this conveyor belt feeling of having several guns. Like there could be, in theory, infinite guns in there. Just keep pulling new ones up.
Like pops around here.
Yeah.
That would be quite a Borderlands style is to do it. But as you say, Jannick, it's also like to make this prop more interesting, because on a first glance, this is quite okay. I mean, it's a box
of guns.
It's an okay design. It has guns in it. What's not cool about that? But could we make it even better? And that's the thing. Like, could you make it even better? Of course, you can always make it better. I mean, we took a step back, really thought about it, and then said, what's the idea? It's a hidden shop. Could there be this fish lid on top of this, like fake fish, and then this thing pops up? So it's 1, 2, 3 steps now before this pops up, and maybe it's not a shop that you visit all the time, but it's like a special place, because I guess this would be too tedious to go through every time, but maybe it's like a special weapon set and it comes out with a lot of smoke or something. Like
it's like, I mean, in the Borderlands 3 menu, you also have this pulley system. I guess there's room for more than 3 guns on this, but still, you have to rotate through that, and then you have the whole UI to help you out. So it could work as well.
Yeah. I was just more thinking about like, if he has to pull off the fish every time, that might be a bit tedious for the player to look at.
I think it's implied functionality that the fish light comes off.
It's just on the side all the time.
Yeah. I don't think it gets
permanently placed there.
Yeah, exactly like it is in this. In the image,
that's a good point. It could just be there all the time.
Yeah.
Because like it is hidden, but as a player, you still need to be. You need to get the story and you need to find it. So it shouldn't be totally hidden. And I think also like I drew in this like big
hinge thing.
Hinge for this building.
Yeah.
And it turned like this thing, but it was super complicated and it took away the focus of this complexity. So this is high complexity and this should be low just to
make a contrast.
Yeah, just to contrast it, because if this has tons of greebles and stuff like as well, like I goes directly to this. So it was just a matter of like toning it down, and the whole image should actually reflect that out here you have like low complexity and in here you have high complexity, and it should all go towards this center point and some little bit somewhat up here, but not too much. So it should all point this way. Yeah. Is there any more we should say about like what was the thoughts?
I mean, many of the elements goes like you can see in the sketch. Like we have a lot, like this back alley, and you have all these pipes, and the one leaky pipe is still there, and there's still the gun shop.
Yeah, it gives a nice possibility for lighting.
Yeah, exactly. And also it keeps this kind of trashy environment that some places in Borderlands have, where he took a freezer and repurposed it as a weapon shop, and then just lays it out on a locker that might be a loot locker that you would see somewhere else in Borderlands. Yeah. And then he also just decided to move in on top so he can kind of keep his stash safe.
Oh that's actually true. That's not present in the sketch.
We had like a big fan in the sketch, right?
We haven't really showed this as
well. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So from this 3D sketch,
it was the other like 2D sketch was developed. And then based on that, more 3D, and then more like 2D, and then back and forth.
So the process was constantly going into to sketch out stuff, go back into 3D, and then continue refining this. But this is still like insanely fast to do. This doesn't take much time. I think this whole scene took around a day, a little bit more than a day to set up with lighting and everything. So what also took quite a lot of time, I'll bring in the reference board in PureRef, is that we actually took a lot of time to find a lot of screenshots so that I could get the feeling of what is actually going on with Borderlands, because it's very, very specific, the style, like multi-layered textures, like details all over the place, scratches.
Yeah, everything is kind of 2D and simplistic while also having a lot of details and also being kind of trashed, everything.
Everything is very, very trashed, like very dense in the texture information. Like nothing is just simple, like even down here everything is crooked.
Everything's designed as well. There's no like normal...
So you can't just like cut corners and then just, it's a freezer, we'll just find a freezer online and see what we can do. So everything has to be designed. So it actually took some time to noodle back and forth. But that's the beautiful thing about 3D and 2D. Like you can go back and forth, and that's the good thing about having 3D, because you can go in and refine, and then when you come to a fork in the road where you really don't know what to choose, go back into 2D and then continue this designing in.
And also having a 3D model makes
so much easier.
It makes it easier, but also makes sure that it works. Like it makes sure that you can actually open and close this. That there's actually room within it because it's been built in 3D.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Actually, everything here it has been checked that there's room for this stuff, and the lid can actually close, and the lid reaches this point. And a 3D model will also be super happy to have this prop, because I mean, they can look around it and see all the things, and like everything should be obvious how it's made. So yeah, this is a really big plus when you're doing concept, to actually be able to hand over a 3D scene as well. And this scene also contains all, let me just check out the blend, it doesn't explode. Oh, no, it doesn't. Contains all the lighting information as well. So this is I think down here is the shot that I chose for Photoshop, and I just tweaked on top of that to get to this final image. So yeah, really, really big plus to have 3D when you're doing this kind of things. So I'm not sure there's so much. Oh yeah, this one. Shit, I keep on saying, I don't think there's more, but there actually is more, because we have, of course, the layout, the call-out sheet for that prop, but then we also just say what the parts are and how things look behind, because in here it might be a little bit difficult to see what this is, but here is like slabs of wood with a ladder up, and then you can go up there in the little sofa arrangement and watch television. Yeah,
well, it's implied that the Victor, the gun vendor, can go up there and sit there, and like that's kind of his living quarters, right?
That's his chill out area up here, this yellow area, and this is the selling area, fish freezer and the fake fish lid. So I just included it in here. Like everything that sort of belongs to the shop is outlined. Everything else is just blued out. So yeah, it combined, it looks like this.
So yeah, the mood shot and the detailed like call out sheet or call out of the freezer itself and the weapon shop itself, and then of the whole area.
Yeah, so area. I guess this is around one week's work if it has to be broken down into hours. So we spent like a good part of the last month on and off just looking at this and getting back and forth and talking a little bit about. But if we have to count hours, this might be a 1 week or something like that, a little bit more than a week, maybe a week and a day or two. So, but yeah, it serves a really good purpose to have this level, because it informs the team so well about texture and lighting, and like so many people on the team can look in this.
And of course, this is all based on our own feedback and going back and forth. And if this had been for a client, they would have been involved like in several stages of this to like implement their feedback instead of our own feedback. So that would of course somewhat prolong the time as well if you had to implement feedback from others.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah,
because
like
this is just all based on our own research.
When you work with a client, it's really, really important to say that this is based on our own internal feedback, because I mean you can make it as fast as you want, but like this took it a week and a day, I guess. Based on our own talk back and forth. But if the client comes in day 3 and say, oh no, change this, change that, I mean it can take much longer. So always like count that time in how much feedback there's allowed to be, because that's really important.
And where they're coming in with their feedback is important as well, because it's important that they do that in the sketch that we went over last time. And they come with all the feedback there, because if they come with feedback at this stage, we're gonna have to redo so much work, and it's gonna take a lot of extra time.
Really mess up the process. So always leave room for like you need to include the client if you have one early in the steps, explain what maybe a little bit further than this, but this combined with some sketches, saying this is direction I want to go. This is the inspiration that I'm taking from. Maybe just highlight some bits and pieces that you think is vital for this. If they give you a go signal from that, they confirm yes, it's the right direction, continue.
But also there's a lot of information already in this sketch, and it's so much quicker to just change things around, and also in 3D just move things around instead of doing it in the final colored piece.
It's this like this is unchangeable.
Exactly.
But it would be a complete disaster to try to. I mean, things could be changed and moved around, but it's so much more painful to do it now. Sort of it has been stamped now. So yeah. Cool. I think that's it.
That's the finished Borderlands piece, right?
That's the finished Borderlands
So where's
piece.
the Diablo piece?
Oh yeah, that's coming along. So it takes a little bit of time now.
So we decided to go for the Borderlands piece because that had the most promise. But then after doing this, and it turned out pretty good, we think so ourselves. And we actually wondered how would the Diablo piece turn out.
Yeah.
So we actually have that one coming up.
Yeah,
but we want to get this out.
It's going to be like full-fledged tutorial like this because we'll just be repeating ourselves, but more like just some finished pieces that we can talk about. And then maybe you can combine the whole thing at the end and just say what did we learn in this process, and just share the scenes and stuff like that. If we can find a good way to share that, would be nice.
And if you have some further questions about like the process of how like we got from the first idea to the sketch to this piece, then please. Write us or write a comment or something, and then we can make a new tutorial at some point, or just answer if it's a short answer, or that would be great.
Yeah, cool. But otherwise, thanks for watching, and it's been like a real pleasure to doing this, and we'll be back when we have the Diablo piece ready for you guys. Until then, like have a really good time, and then we'll see you guys. Bye.
Hey yo.